It's Vegan Freak Radio number 87 for the 3rd of February, 2008.
Coming to you from high atop their elite fortress of moral superiority, here are your protein-deficient hosts, Bob and Jenna.
Hey everybody, this is Bob.
And Jenna.
And we're back again for another edition of Vegan Freak Radio, we think.
Despite the, this is like the third time now.
Well, we've tried, yes.
We tried.
Okay, so here's what's been happening. I was getting ready to get the show. I was like getting all of our stuff in our little sound carts and getting everything sorted out. And I went to reach across the table in Studio 1 here at Vegan Freak headquarters and spilled a cup of coffee all over everything. None of the equipment was damaged, fortunately, but it did make a mess. There was coffee everywhere. It was disgusting. It wasn't a big cup of coffee, but it just like everywhere immediately coffee. So we had to clean that up, lift up monitors and all kinds of crap. Cleaned up the coffee. I was upset because I had to go get more coffee. So now I have more coffee and I'm feeling pretty charged up. We sat down, we did the show, we were like getting through the intro, we're cranking, we're bitching and moaning about snowmobilers, which we'll do again in a second. And then all of a sudden, boom, everything shuts off. Like, what the hell? We look down, Emmy is standing on one of the power strips. Emmy is our dog, in case you don't know, is standing on one of the power strips that power some of the equipment in the studio. Oh, God. So that cut that part of the show out almost immediately. Did I hit record?
Yeah.
God, yes.
Okay.
Holy hell. Yeah, it's like one of those days here. You know, it's like we can't win.
No, not at all. And we were originally bitching about the snowmobiles, which I'm sure we'll hear at some point during the show. Go past the window because they're loud and annoying.
Drunk fucks.
And yeah, so right now that they're like, probably 6 or 7 snowmobiles parked in front of the bar that's down the street from my house.
Yep.
And
it's actually diagonal from our house,
right.
so the dogs can look out the window and see it and bark at them.
Yeah, bark at everybody who comes out and goes out for a smoke.
Yeah.
And so earlier we were trying to prevent Emmy from barking at all the people who are sitting outside smoking.
Yeah, and getting drunk.
And then going and getting on their snowmobiles and driving home.
That's right.
So yeah.
And you know what? This is the depth, the dedication we have to you, our Vegan Freak Radio listeners. We are here on Super Bowl Sunday recording a show for you. Now,
yeah, like as if you're going to watch the Super Bowl.
Yeah, okay. If either of us gave a shit about the Super Bowl, it might mean something.
You're just not a man, Bob.
What do you mean I'm not a man, baby?
Because you're not going to be eating junk food and watching the Super Bowl tonight. That's
right. Of course not. Of course not. We were watching something, wasn't on CTV or CBC, one of those, where they were going shopping for Super Bowl parties, and they went down the vegetable aisle, and the guy's like, no cucumbers, no peppers, none of this. It's Super Bowl Sunday. It's like you have to buy the junkiest possible food. Anyway, who cares? So probably going to drop a quiz on my students tomorrow. Aren't I a dick?
Who cares?
Yeah. That's what they get for liking sports. I'm kidding. Kind of. No, I'm kidding. So, yeah, we've got a bunch of things to talk about today on the show. Sorry for the kind of delay between shows here. We have had a busy few weeks with our semester kind of kicking into gear and all that. We did crank out a subscriber show in the interim, though.
We did.
And we want to do another one of those soon. I want to call my parents. I told my mom I wanted to call my mom and my dad and talk to them interview them about how weird I am. And my mom's like, well, I want to prepare. And also says, Mom, don't prepare, just let me call. So we might call my parents and see what they have to say about me being vegan and freaky. What I want to do is determine just how far back there were indications I may have been moving this way in my life.
Oh boy.
So
I have a feeling it's probably way back.
Probably. I've always been a contrary sort.
Yes, you have.
I always have. It gets me into trouble very often. But there we are. So go ahead, Gina.
Yes. I don't know. Anyway, we have a shout out.
We do. We haven't done those in a long time.
No, we have 2. One of them is for Jocelyn. We need to wish her a happy birthday tomorrow.
Absolutely.
On Monday.
The 4th.
The 4th, and from her husband, Michael.
And I had an interesting email exchange with Michael, who is a vegan for environmental reasons, which we're going to talk about in a moment, but not necessarily for animal rights reasons. So it was interesting to try to get him to bring him around. He had some interesting ideas. So I don't know if we ever got there or not, but we'll see. So happy birthday.
Yes.
I wish we used to have a happy birthday song in here. Don't have it anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, if you're having, we will try to find that at some point and maybe put it back in there.
Okay.
And also, I wanted to give a shout out to the Angry Hippie over at angryhippie.arbent.net. We're going to play a voicemail from the Angry Hippie a little later in the show. He has been on our forums for a while now. He does a podcast and a blog and is starting to do some film stuff too. Cool. But I actually finally had the chance to listen to one of his shows the other day. And not only was he kind enough to say really, I think, overly generous things about us, which was cool. Mm-hmm. In his show, he actually compared us to, he had these difference makers, like a segment in his show. The two difference makers for the week were us and Doctors Without Borders.
Oh, geez.
I know. I was like,
I don't know if we quite compare to them.
No, I don't think we do. But I appreciate it. So he has a voicemail later on the show. But anyway, you should check out his podcast. It's excellent. Just rants, from the heart. Angry. Some of it's angry. Some of it's funny. Some of it's angry and funny. I was listening to it out walking the dogs one day. I was laughing my ass off. I really liked it. So, it's like every other, it's like the, podcasts. Some are for some people, some are not for some people. And I don't know if you tend.
I would imagine if you like our show, you would like his show.
Probably. He's a little rantier than we are, though.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think he holds back as much as we do either. So I think that's good. I find myself holding back quite a bit on the show, frankly.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, check out his show. In terms of other things, I was on a radio show called, oh my God, blanking. It was on KVDS in Davis, California. And I spent the hour with the host, Richard Estes, talking about Making a Killing. We had a pretty interesting conversation about the book, talked about some of the reasons people would go vegan, talked about some of the things that I brought up in the book, mostly around the kind of conflict within the animal rights movement and some of the issues around immigrant labor and some of the human aspects of animal production, the downsides of that, along with the animal downsides. So it was an interesting conversation.
Cool.
Yeah, man. I think you can find it on their website too. Although I don't feel like I was very eloquent in the interview. I don't know why. I get on the phone, I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I had a hard time for a little bit there.
Well, it was kind of an odd time to have a radio interview for us because it was like during rush hour on the West Coast, but it was like 8 o'clock on a Friday night here. So
and 8 o'clock on a Friday night here, man. I'm not usually doing radio shows, so I'll just put it that way. It was all right. I think it went all right. I appreciate having had the opportunity to be on the show.
Cool.
So let's move into the meat of the show.
All
sorry.
Right. Cool.
Yeah. No Michael Bolton this week. I'm sorry. No old men this week either. We'll come back with one of those segments shortly.
We will.
Well, we can't beat things to death,
No, we don't do that.
I was trying to convince Jenna to do with things as they aren't as they used to be segment.
I'll probably do one. Maybe next time.
Okay, people are going to hold you to that.
I got to practice my old lady voice first.
Give it a shot.
Well, I was out walking the other day. No, I can't. I don't know. It's not good.
What do you mean?
It needs work.
It needs work. So when are you're gonna work on it, like driving back and forth in the car? Or
yeah.
What? That's a good place. Yeah, good. So. Let's move on to the show.
Okay. We wanted to start off with an article that many people sent us a link to. We don't.
I've got like lung earth balance going on here.
Yay! Great.
I think it's from all the soy milk in my coffee. I'm like,
ew, disgusting.
Sorry.
So if we hear gross noises in the background, part of it's from you. Actually, part of it's also from Mole.
Yeah, he's
Mole's sitting here licking himself for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, he's he gets caught in these. When I was a kid, I used to program in BASIC, like on the TI-99 4A. No, is that right? TI-80. Yeah, or no, that's a calculator. Well, in any case, I used to have one of these little Texas Instruments computers. It's all in one. And I used to love to do 10 print, lick my balls, 20 go to 10, and then hit return. It would run up the screen, lick my balls, forever, right? Yeah, I did. I used to like to do that. And when they had them in department stores, I could do the same thing. So Mole is caught in a go-to loop.
Yes,
he's like, 10 lick, 20 go to 10. Lick, 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 lick. And until we hit like Control C or Control Z and snap him out of it, that's what he does. Sorry.
Oh, there he goes. So he stopped.
Wow.
You hit Control C.
So, yeah, that's kind of my nerdy. I'm sorry. Yeah, basic. That's about all I know. So, okay, let's move on.
Okay. Anyway, many people send us a link to this article.
And we thank every single one of them for sending it. There were a lot of people, so we can't go through every single name.
Exactly. And it is from the New York Times.
It is. And it's called Rethinking the Meat Guzzler. And it's by Mark Bittman, who has written several cookbooks, right? He wrote a cookbook called How to Cook Anything, right? Or
How to Cook Everything, and then How to Cook Everything Vegetarian.
And he's Cook Everything Vegetarian. Mm-hmm. And in the little byline for the article, they make a point of noting he is not a vegetarian.
Because, that's too extreme. And should he actually be a vegetarian, then, you might not want to listen to him because we're all crazy.
Or we're girls.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't know. Like, what's...
Yeah.
But anyway, Bittman, this is actually an interesting article. I think it begins... Well, it's actually a provocative article in a lot of ways, but I think that there are problems with it.
Of course.
Like there are for most things from the New York Times that talk about animals. It begins like this. A sea change in the consumption of a resource that Americans take for granted may be in store. Something cheap, plentiful, widely enjoyed, and a part of daily life. And it isn't oil. It's meat.
The horrible meat!
Yes, indeed. The two commodities share a great deal. Like oil, meat is subsidized by the federal government. Like oil, meat is subject to accelerating demand as nations become wealthier, and this in turn sends prices higher. Finally, like oil, meat is something people are encouraged to consume less of as the toll exacted by industrial production increases and becomes increasingly visible. Global demand for meat has multiplied in recent years, encouraged by growing affluence and nourished by the proliferation of huge confined animal feeding operations. These assembly line meat factories consume enormous amounts of energy, pollute water supplies, generate significant greenhouse gases, and require ever-increasing amounts of corn, soy, and other grains, a dependency that has led to the destruction of vast swaths of the world's tropical rainforests. So he goes on to kind of talk about how Brazil is announcing emergency measures to halt the burning and cutting of the rainforest, and that the world's total meat supply has gone up from 71 million tons in 1961 to about 284 million tons in 2007. And per capita consumption is doubling. What he says here is that also that Americans eat about the same amount of meat as we have for some time, about 8 ounces a day, roughly twice the global average. So Americans are eating more than twice what everyone else is. At about 5% of the world's population, we quote-unquote process, that is, grow and kill. He put that in there, not me. Mm-hmm. Grow and kill nearly 10 billion animals a year, more than 15% of the world's total. Growing meat, he says, it's hard to use the word raising when applied to animals and factory farms. Uses so many resources that it's a challenge to enumerate them all. But consider, an estimated 30% of the Earth's ice-free land is directly or indirectly involved in livestock production, according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, which also estimates that livestock production generates nearly a fifth of the world's greenhouse gases, more than transportation. So that's a pretty compelling argument right there for all the ecosexuals out there who are worried about carbon and all that crap, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's actually pretty cool, right? He goes through all these costs, and he talks about how grain, meat, and energy are roped together that in ways that are really troubling for large scale systems. And he also goes in and ties all this stuff to malnutrition and hunger. So you should really go check the article out. I think it does a really nice job of pulling these things together. And it also says that so it looks at the environmental aspects, but it also looks at the health aspects of the whole issue by saying that grain-fed animals are contributing to health problems among the world's wealthier citizens, leading to things like heart disease, some types of cancer, and diabetes. And so he's saying that even if meat weren't harmful, we're eating way more than we should be. So he says that Americans are downing close to 200 pounds of meat, poultry, and fish per capita per year. That's disgusting.
That is disgusting.
Dairy and eggs are separate and hardly insignificant, an increase of 50 pounds per person from 50 years ago. We each consume something like 110 grams of protein a day, about twice the federal government's recommended allowance. Of that, about 75 grams come from animal protein. The recommended level itself is considered by many dietary experts to be higher than it needs to be. It's likely that most of us would do just fine on around 30 grams of protein a day, virtually all of it from plant sources. So he actually says all this in here, right?
He's making all these wonderful arguments for not eating meat.
Yeah. And then the next paragraph, he says, what can be done? And he says, there's no simple answer.
I got one for you.
What is it?
Don't eat it.
Yeah. Go vegan, man.
Go vegan.
Absolutely.
It's a problem solved.
I think it's a very simple answer.
Pretty simple to me.
He actually says that better waste management is an answer. Eliminating subsidies is another one. Improved farming would help. Technology would help. The possibility of lab-grown meat would help. Return to grazing beef would help. And then, of course, he quotes Michael Pollan. And, goes through all that stuff, talk about, locavore type crap. It's all fairly predictable. So, and he also, but interestingly points to animal welfare being, he says, may not yet be a major concern, but as the horrors of raising meat in confinement become known, more animal lovers may start to react. Interesting. And then he also says, and would the world not be a better place where some of the grain we use to grow meat directed instead to feed our fellow human beings? Motherfucker. I swear to God.
What happened?
The virus signature database has been successfully updated to version 2845, 2008-0202. Windows.
I hate Windows.
Cock. Okay. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so the article on the whole, right? It's interesting insofar as it raises a lot of these really good questions, but I feel like it's just like a letdown in a sense.
It is. He makes all these wonderful arguments and these are reasons why we shouldn't eat meat. But he makes the arguments so you can say, oh, well, we shouldn't eat so much meat. We should eat less meat.
Yeah, kind of. But on the other hand, this is a pretty positive thing because it attacks several of the different dimensions of meat eating, right? It looks at the environmental impact of it. Mm-hmm. He talks about the health impact of it, and he talks about the animal exploitation aspect of it.
Very briefly.
Briefly, but it's there.
It's there.
You know? And I know that this triumvirate has been critiqued as a potential grounds for activism, but I still think that these three things are important because they're interlinked, right? Mm-hmm. It's a systemic thing. It's a process that's built into systems, and I think those systems all come together.
Exactly.
I don't think you can really talk about the food system without talking about the health effects of the food system, without talking the environmental aspects of the food system. And these things are part of the food system.
Well, you think about it. I mean, you think meat, it's not healthy for us. It's not healthy for the planet. It's not healthy for the animals. So to me, they're definitely all interlinked. You can't,
I think so too.
I don't think you can separate out the arguments. I think you have to make them all.
But other activists have argued that trying to argue the environmental aspects of it are it's irresponsible or somewhat pointless. I've heard people argue.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but I think the arguments are quite strong in that direction, particularly if you look at how meat is produced and consumed and where it comes from. So,
but what they always rely on is this grass-fed bullshit, and that's not sustainable either. Because where are you going to find all the land for that?
Well, what I suspect will probably happen is that as resources become more and more scarce, we may actually see a decline in the consumption of meat. And if we do see the vat-grown shit coming out, that actually might be the meat that most people end up eating after a while. I would think that would be a generally positive thing. I would not fucking touch it, but I think it'd probably be a generally positive thing. What I think you'll never see the end of, though, is animals being raised for, kind of niche markets. So I think if we move into a direction where resources become extremely scarce, and I suspect they will, in the near future. As we move in that direction, we'll probably see the lab-grown stuff for most people, and there'll probably still be a very high-end market for the, free-range, organic, chakra-aligned...
Of course, for the people who can afford it.
Massaged beef for the people who can afford it, right? And the same people who are going to steakhouses and drinking Bombay Sapphire martinis. Wait, nothing wrong with those. Anyway, that's what I think we'll see a movement towards in time.
Yeah. But what really pisses me off about articles like this is that they're so afraid to go to that next step. If we didn't eat meat, we wouldn't be treating animals as commodities. We wouldn't have these environmental problems. We wouldn't have the health problems. It's like,
but he kind of goes there.
I know, but he won't say it because it's not popular, because it's seen as too extreme.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the byline at the very end, the very last thing in the article, he is not a vegetarian, so he won't even go that step. People don't see it as necessary. Well, if we just lower our consumption, everything's great. It might be better for the planet. It might be better for your health to lower your consumption. It's not better for the animals.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
it is. It is. Okay, sure it is. Of course it is. But it's not better for those ones you're still eating.
Well, it's better for... This is the thing, right? It's better for them in the sense that they may suffer less during their lifetimes. right? But it's still a moral wrong.
Yes.
When it comes down to it, it's still a problem because you're still treating an animal like a commodity. You're still treating an animal like property, and you're still making money off of that animal by killing it and selling it, you know, or selling it. Yeah, killing it and selling it.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we have. That's why I have so many problems with the welfare animal. You know, the new welfare movement, as I would like to call it, because there's not really an animal rights movement to speak of anymore. I mean, what we're talking about is people who say that we just need to exploit animals a little more gently. And my problem is that it doesn't challenge the roots of animal exploitation when you get down to it. You simply have these kinds of reformist tendencies that don't do anything to address the systemic problems that are involved.
And then you get arguments like this one.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That we're going to read for you.
And wait.
What?
Well, first off, we should credit the person.
I was going to.
Okay.
I was just going to say. This one was posted on our forums by a member called Four Green Peas and entitled Infuriating Article. And it is.
But she had a sound. She even put in a sound effect for us at the beginning. And this is the sound effect she put in.
Who here can tell Bob what critical thinking means?
And it's obviously lacking in this article.
Yes.
This is entitled Buying Organic is Meeting Vegans Halfway.
Is it? But it's meeting, isn't it?
MEAT, yeah. This is from the Georgetown Voice on January 31st.
No, wait. Is it like one of those city paper type things?
Probably.
Or is it a college newspaper?
I have no idea.
Because the writing in this is completely juvenile.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like worse than something you would see in a high school newspaper. I just have to say. I read it, and well, you'll read it. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. If you love Mother Earth, good food, animals, and being a human, please don't become a vegan. While adherents to vegetarians' extreme cousin claim that their lifestyle, which completely eliminates the consumption of animal products, springs from a concern for animal rights and the environment, a close look at vegan practices reveals them to be largely ineffective in terms of their stated goals. A simple awareness of the benefits of locally grown and organic food and a dedication to small lifestyle changes is much more beneficial to the earth we all love so dearly.
Eat me.
Oh my God. This article makes my head want to explode. Okay. It's no secret that livestock is raised and slaughtered in this country in alarming volumes and by abhorrent methods. We've all seen the disturbing pictures of rows and rows of pigs and chickens suffocating in factory farms. We should be concerned about the pesticides that get sprayed on the produce they eat and about the incredible amount of energy that is used in flying food in from all over the world. In a recent article in the New York Times, food writer Mark Bittman noted that every day Americans eat twice as much meat as the rest of the world, and that livestock production creates more greenhouse gases than transportation does. See, this is the logical conclusion these people are making from articles like Bittman's. Okay. These statistics are alarming, and it's no wonder that earth-friendly dietary practices are gaining popularity. While no one lifestyle is a perfect synthesis of practices that will solve our food-related environmental and ethical problems, veganism is particularly ineffective. Its stipulations are so constricting that average Americans are highly unlikely to consider making the necessary lifestyle changes, and if the tenets of an idea can't take hold within a society, how is it supposed to make an impact? Being a vegetarian because you can't stand the taste of flesh is one thing, but refusing to use honey and only wearing pleather in an effort to champion animal rights is just naive.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
I think it should get the hose.
Chickens are going to get killed and cows are going to get milked no matter how many eggless carob chip cookies vegans bake. Because, that's all we bake. Because so few people are inclined to deprive themselves of the American niceties they've grown up with. Okay, can we all point out the logical flaw in that one?
Yes, we can. And we shall.
Okay. All right. Americans are a meat-loving people, and since money is going to be spent on meat no matter what, it makes sense to direct that money towards organic and free-range meat and away from mass-processed, hormone-ridden, factory-raised meat. Not eating meat at all is ineffective because while it creates slightly less demand for the unethical product, it creates no demand for a better one. What? If you really want to do something constructive for the cows that will inevitably end up in supermarket coolers, buy organic or buy local. Small changes like buying meat from a local butcher or shopping for seasonal produce at farm stands are much more productive ways to slow down individual consumption of mass-produced and farmed food products while maintaining relatively normal eating habits. Because,
Relatively normal eating habits.
Because, being normal is just the be-all, end-all. Okay, anyway. While it's true that organic food is popular, mostly among upper middle class yuppies, it's a trend that has the potential to trickle down as increased media attention and culinary awareness make organic products more mainstream and eventually more affordable. The slow food movement, which works to incite communities to turn back their culinary roots by eating locally grown food, is gaining popularity not only among individual consumers, but with restaurateurs who realize the movement's potential for commercial success and its ecological and ethical benefits. Our current food production system is unsustainable, and the small changes that have begun to take hold need to become ingrained in our national routine. When there are so many more productive ways to ensure that our animal friends are treated well and that our environment will continue to nourish us, there's no need to deprive yourself of the visceral pleasure of a nice big steak, much like a swipe of Burt's Bees lip balm.
How can you talk if you haven't got a brain?
I don't know. But some people without brains do an awful lot of talking, don't they?
They do indeed. That is from Nadine in Sydney, Australia. She sent me a couple sound effects. And that one I just thought was so appropriate for this. So appropriate.
Oh, yeah.
So the argument, let's look at the argument. The argument is people won't really change. Therefore, veganism is stupid. Mm-hmm. Isn't that the argument? Am I wrong in saying that?
That and apparently the argument is, well, cows and chickens only exist to be eaten and they're always going to exist. So why not eat them?
That's right.
Like not making that the conclusion like, hey, if we stop eating them, then we also stop breeding them. And then, oh my God, they don't exist. And then we don't eat them and then they're gone.
Yeah. I mean, that thing is just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. So yeah, it just hurts my head.
Yeah. Meat tastes good. It's normal to eat it. So veganism is stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That. It's like, how can we, I don't know. I'm like.
Well, it's so obviously, I think it's so obviously and so patently stupid that, it speaks for itself.
It really does.
I really think it does.
Yeah. And
because go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it just makes the assumption that things will never change and that things never can be changed.
Right.
And so if you make the assumption that things never will change and never can be changed because people are too lazy or too stupid to change, then what you're coming up with is this kind of argument, which is ridiculous. But people can change and they do change. Mm-hmm. And maybe I'm just like, I don't know, some kind of really hopeful person, but I tend to think that I tend to think things might change. Mm-hmm. With concentrated social activism, I think we can make a difference.
I think so too. Actually, that kind of leads into this other thing that I wanted to talk about.
Do it.
Can we do it now?
Do it.
Okay. This is actually, it was from an email we got from someone named David Buchanan. He says, I'm a longtime listener, first-time emailer. Living in northern Utah, I was watching You Are What You Eat, which we've talked about before. On the show this morning. I was enjoying a nice big bowl of fresh pineapple, strawberries, blackberries, and sliced apples. That sounds good. The woman the show was focusing on said something to the effect of parrot food, rabbit food, no matter what you put with it, it's still veg, and that's not variety. And I looked down at my big bowl of fruit and laughed. I remember when I would eat animal flesh, it makes me sick to think how the variety I thought I used to eat was mostly a gray color. Yep. And to look down at all the colors I get to eat every day. Many of my family and friends will say to me, oh, you're a vegan. How do you eat salad at every meal? I usually reply, how do you eat dead animals at every meal? We as vegans have more variety to our meals than anyone else. I just felt like ranting and thought you would enjoy this, David. I do. And we were watching this other episode the other day about this woman. Okay, she's allergic to dairy products. And yet most of her diet consisted of milk chocolate and cheese.
Yes.
And when she would eat milk chocolate and cheese, her ears would itch and her throat would itch.
And she'd make this little oinking noise.
Yes, so in an attempt to itch her throat, she'd make this horrible noise like that. And basically her throat was starting to close up, and yet she would still eat it.
Yeah.
Still eat it. And when asked why by the woman who she could not give an answer. She's like, I don't know, I like it.
But I was like that once too.
I was too, but that's the point I want to make, and that once this woman was shown the ridiculousness of what she was doing, like when all of her weekly food was put out in front of her, and it was that bland, that blah, it was like.
Well, she also lived on chips, right? It's the same one who lived on French fries, isn't it?
No, that was someone else.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but
They all run together.
yeah, they do. I mean, it's all shows like this are all pretty much like the same thing every time, just
course.
with a slight difference.
Yeah, it's just the different food that people are addicted to, you know?
Exactly.
But yeah, they're always bland and gray, like gray and beige. It's just disgusting looking.
It is. And yet, when people are shown this, they're finally like something clicks, and they're like, "Oh my God, I had no idea that's what I was eating in a week."
Yeah.
You know, when it's all laid out in front of them, and it's all like the same color, it's all like bland, it's all deep fried, it's all horrible.
Sure.
And I'm not even talking about like just, you know, for your health here. I'm like talking about how I think people really just need to be shown what they're doing. And like they need something to shock them out of it.
You know, I also think when it comes to food, a lot of people are essentially children.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. I haven't really thought a whole lot about it, and I haven't done much research on it, but so I could be talking out of my ass here. But I think that for a lot of people, foods have these relationships with comfort or with something to do with being a child.
Yes,
and
definitely.
seeking comfort.
Definitely.
And so I think for a lot of people, there's this weird kind of like childhood comfort connection to the foods that they consume and to wanting to get back to where they were when they were children. And I'm not a psychoanalyst. I don't really know fucking shit about psychology, but I'm a sociologist. But it seems that way to me because the connections that people have with the foods that they love seem to be irrational.
Definitely. And I would imagine there's something physiological that goes on there too. I mean, if it's something
yeah.
like cheese, we know it's addicting. And that
Mildly,
so
yes.
mildly, and so you're going to go back to that, especially if you have positive connections to it
Sure.
from your childhood. I mean, we were just talking the other day about how when we were kids, somebody had mentioned making this scallop potato recipe from one of Drina's cookbooks.
Yes.
And we were talking the other day how when we were kids, we both grew up eating the scallop potatoes that come out of a box.
And they were good.
And they used to be so good.
They
and
were
I still
good.
think about them like they were so good. And
They
of
were.
course they're like horrendous for you because they're loaded with fat and milk and dairy products and all
I'm
that
sure
shit.
they are, yeah.
But we still have that positive connection. And I think some of it was probably because like we were probably addicted to the chemicals and all this processed food, which is just, you know, it just has that effect on you. But it's also because, you know, you think about you being a kid and eating this stuff and
Yeah.
it's just got such a strong pull. But people, even with that strong pull, people can change. Like
They can.
This woman who was, you know, allergic to dairy, and all these people on the show, they're like, they complain about it at first. They're like disgusted by their new
Yeah.
foods and everything. They give it some weeks and, you know, they start to feel better and they start to realize what they were doing before and they change.
They do indeed.
And I think that's a positive sign that if we show people like, look, this is what you're doing. And if this is what you could, you know, feel like your conscience could be clear as a vegan.
Yeah.
I think maybe we have some hope. I don't know.
I think so too. Absolutely. And I mean, to get back to it though, I think it's really simple to fall into ruts when it comes to what you eat as a
Completely.
vegan or as a non-vegan.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you just get into these kinds of ruts of what you're comfortable with and what's easy and what's available. But before I went vegan, I would eat cheese and I'm lactose intolerant. And it would like make me feel like hell. I would, you know, get really bad gas, you know, like it was not a good scene.
Yeah.
You know, it would make me sick. And why did I keep eating it? I don't know.
Because it tasted good.
Because it tasted good and because I was an idiot. I guess. I don't really know. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think also when people don't know that there are alternatives out there. Like,
True.
Like it doesn't even occur to people that, oh, hey, I don't have to eat this.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
Or people can't picture alternatives. Like they have no idea what else there is to eat if you don't eat meat. And you see on these shows, like, you know, people have no idea how to cook vegetables. They
That's
don't know
true.
what to do with them, so they pass them by.
But it doesn't take long to figure it out.
No, it doesn't.
It's
You get
not
a cookbook-
complicated.
You get a cookbook or you look up stuff on the internet and you learn.
Yeah, but I mean, how hard is it if you open a cookbook and it says dice a zucchini? You know, how hard is that to do? Chop a zucchini. How hard is that?
Well, if you've never cooked before, I guess it's hard.
I guess. I don't know. I guess I was always in the house where my mother always cooked. So I always saw her cooking or sometimes would cook with her or things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up helping my mom to cook and bake, and that's how I learned.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So
And my dad did more of the cooking.
there you go.
Yeah. Okay, anyway.
What else?
So, yeah. So, the summary of that is people can change. And I think it drives me nuts when people make this veganism out to be the extreme.
It's not that extreme.
It's not.
It's not that extreme at all. Once you have Well, I actually find it very simple. I mean, a lot of people complain about how hard it is and all that, but I actually don't find it very difficult.
Once you get, the label reading down, once you get the, your diet down,
it becomes second nature very quickly.
It does.
It really does. Most of you know that. So what else?
Okay.
Yes. Also back to the New York Times, there was an interesting article in there about the dogs that the dogs that were rescued from Michael Vick's fighting compound, I guess is what you would call it. And it talks about how these pit bulls were seized and where they're at now. And how most of them actually have been able to be saved and they've only had to put one dog down or euthanize one dog, right? I want to try not to use euphemisms here. They've only had to put one dog down because it was very, very violent. The rest of the dogs, of course, have various kinds of psychological damage. And this article about Vick's dogs goes into a lot of depth about the different things that the sanctuaries are doing to take care of these dogs and how long it's taking them to bring the animals back around and how they're coming back around. And I think it's really positive, really illustrative way of saying that a point that I think I've heard made before is that there are some dogs who are beyond redemption, but they're in the tiniest minority, and that dogs can be saved if people take the time and the resources to save them. And there was an interesting thing I thought in this article that I found, well, I didn't find it surprising, but in the first page of the article, they say pit bulls seized from illegal fighting operations are usually euthanized after becoming property of the government. The Humane Society of the United States and People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals recommended that Mr. Vick's dogs be euthanized, but many animal rescue organizations urged the prosecutors to let the dogs live. And they did. But what a ridiculous thing for the HSUS and PETA to be urging. I mean, these are two groups that are ostensibly in the business of protecting the interests of animals. Supposedly, ostensibly in that business. And what do? They're promoting euthanizing dogs that clearly are being rehabilitated. Rehabilitated slowly, but being rehabilitated.
Yeah. I mean, the whole article talks about how, it's the time and effort and money, but these dogs with horrible problems are very slowly starting to, and a lot of them are already being fostered.
That's right.
And being, integrated into families.
And it says in this article that all but one of Vick's dogs at Best Friend Sanctuary wear green collars, signaling that they are good with people. So, come on, I mean...
I know. It's humans. Pit bulls aren't inherently evil dogs.
No.
It's humans that make them that way.
That's right.
It's humans that did all of that damage to Michael Vick's dogs. And
it's exactly right.
And so what, we should do is, since it's human created problems, we should have a human created solution. We should take care of it.
Yep.
Rehabilitate them. Don't just kill them because of our stupidity.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is that the solution, the pseudo solution that PETA and the HSUS propose, is a solution that is punishing the dogs for our stupidity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that it's this assumption that, well, there are no bad homes in heaven.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
I know. But to me, it's like, okay, we don't kill the mentally ill people.
I know.
We try to rehabilitate them in some cases. And in other cases, unfortunately, then they're like the animals. They go and live on the street because, they can't get help if you don't have the money. But, as a matter of course, we don't euthanize people who have severe mental problems. We give them drugs. We give them therapy.
Or we of course put them in the prison industrial complex if they happen to be poor enough to, to commit a crime,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
Because the prison industrial complex now takes the place of most social welfare programs in the United States. We cut the social welfare programs and then just pump all that money into prison industrial.
Right. Because why would we actually want to take care of the root of the problem?
Yeah, really. No, it's so much easier, and it sounds so much better to punish people for what they've done,
exactly.
Right? Rather than trying to actually help them. But the article does also go through how one of the dogs had all of her teeth extracted.
Made me so sad.
Yeah, it was really horrible. And the article says that having those teeth extracted must have been excruciating. Even with medication, dogs are in pain after losing one tooth, which may take more than an hour of digging, prying, and leveling to pull. Ow.
Yeah. And they did this because she was being used to breed, and they didn't want her attacking the male dogs. And
at the end of the article, there's a really poignant quote. It says, "These dogs have been beaten and starved and tortured, and they have every reason not to trust us," Mr. Garcia said as Georgia, which is one of the dogs, crawled onto his lap, melted into him for an afternoon nap, and began to snore. "But deep down, they love us and still want to be with us. It is amazing how resilient they are." And I think that's really powerful. Because what that says to me is that, these are animals who will trust us. And a lot of you out there have companion animals who show incredible amounts of love.
Mm-hmm.
And you know it.
Yeah.
You know they love you.
Mm-hmm.
And these are animals that have been abused, and they still can show that. That to me is amazing.
It is amazing. And it shows how much better dogs are than people.
You sound like an animal rights activist now, you freak.
No, it's just like, I don't know. Dogs are just awesome.
Yeah, they are. Except for when they step on the power supply for the whole studio. Yeah, then that gets... Then I wasn't feeling like they were so awesome. That was fine.
But yeah. No, I do think that humans are incredibly stupid creatures on a large number of occasions.
We are, but the thing is that we don't
have to be.
We don't. We don't have to be.
You know?
That's the thing that's the most frustrating is that I feel like humans have a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm.
As a species in general.
We do.
We can do we have done amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
We've invented amazing things, and we've done incredibly important, interesting work as a species. But so often what goes along with that is just this abusive, horrible side.
Yeah.
I think we're dangerous.
We are dangerous.
We're very dangerous monkeys.
Definitely. We need to change that as well.
Indeed.
It's Ritalin for all of you.
That's what we need. We all need Ritalin.
Maybe that would solve the problem. I don't know. Put it in the water supply. I don't know. We
need to put something in the water supply. I don't know. That's another sound effect from Nadine in Australia. So she sent a couple. They were good. We also got another sound effect that I like pretty much. This one's from Johnny Zoo on our forums. This is good.
I'm a vegetarian.
You're a what?
I don't eat meat.
Pork?
No.
Chickens?
No.
And what about the sausage?
No meat.
What is wrong with you?
Awesome.
I like that. So there we go. So you want to do voicemails?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Time once again for some vegan freak voicemail. Maybe we'll hear from a hot chick
or a choice male.
Callers make us happy and help us keep our sanity, even if all they wanna do is fucking complain about the shitload of profanity.
Hi Bob and Jenna, this is Heather calling from Sydney, Australia. I'm just calling to have a whine about something that really bothered me today. My boyfriend and I went out to lunch with my best friend and her new boyfriend. And this is the first time that I've gone out for a meal with my friend since I've been vegan. And the day started off really well. We went around to her apartment and she had prepared some vegan food, and she'd made sure that she had vegan wine for everybody to drink. And, she'd checked the ingredients, and she was all proud that, she'd made sure everything was vegan so I could eat it. And, that was really cool. Then we went out to lunch at this cafe, and she and her boyfriend ordered vegetarian meals, I guess, so, we didn't have to see them eating meat, which I thought was really considerate, and I really appreciated it. But anyway, we were talking about cooking, and she just randomly says, "Oh, gee, it's a shame you guys don't eat meat, because Chad makes a really great kangaroo steak." Chad is her boyfriend, and I just didn't know what to say. So I sort of looked at her with my eyebrows raised, and I said, "Oh, great," really sarcastically, and hoped that the conversation would just move on. And she starts talking about how wonderful, tasty kangaroo meat is, and how healthy it is. It's so lean. And I just felt really conflicted because I didn't want to, make people feel uncomfortable. This is the first time I met her boyfriend, and I just was conflicted about what to do. Like, do I try and educate them about the cruelty inherent in the kangaroo slaughter? Because I don't know if you guys know a lot about kangaroo shooting, but it's a really cruel industry. I mean, where to the point where it's legally acceptable to bludgeon joeys to death when they're found in the pouches of the slaughtered female kangaroos. It's just a really, really horrible industry. And but yeah, I was just like, what do I do? So as she was talking, I was sort of debating, like, do I speak up? And I guess my boyfriend saw the discomfort on my face, and he stepped in and steered the conversation away from it. But I kept thinking about it throughout the rest of the meal, because I felt like, I kept the peace, and, I'm still leading by example. I'm being happy vegan, and, trying to set a good example and at least make them think about vegan food and that sort of thing. But, I just feel like I really let the animals down by not standing up for them. So, I just wanted to hear what you guys thought about that and, what you guys would have done in that situation. Thanks a lot, guys. Love your podcast. Bye.
Well, thank you for that voicemail.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jenna.
What ought to be? I don't think you need to worry about like letting the animals down, because if it doesn't come up now, it might come up later. And she's at least a little aware in fact that, she was willing to do so many nice things.
It's such a weird thing, though.
It is weird.
To be so thoughtful about all those different things, including the vegan wine thing, which is
really weird.
Well, not weird. It's great, right? For someone to do that much research and understand.
Well, that's what I mean. It's weird to go that far.
It's great. And then to have this strange kind of disjuncture between the two, it's really odd.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know. It's like I never understand why meat eaters do that. Like, I don't think it even occurs to them at all.
I think
that
that's
it
a big
would bother
thing.
that would bother you. I mean, because people do it to me all the time. They tell me about this meal they had, it was great, and it was this meat, it was so juicy, and I'm like, I probably get this look on my face because I'm really not good at hiding that.
No,
kind of
you're
stuff.
not.
Probably get my look on my face like, why are you telling me this?
Yeah.
But I usually don't say a lot.
I think in the past I've usually weathered it.
Yeah.
I've just kind of gone, okay, yeah.
Yeah, great.
It's tough though. I mean, it's really a case by case situation. It depends on the relationship with your friends. Me personally, it depends on the friend. If I have a friend who I'm comfortable saying almost anything to, and they start saying things like that, I'll say to them, "What are you, crazy? Like, where I'm at." On the other hand, I have some friends who I wouldn't want, who know I'm vegan and who are thoughtful about it, who I wouldn't want to say that to.
Right.
So I think it varies situation to situation. I mean, what a cop out of an answer, right?
But it does.
But I really think it does.
You really have to judge about how your friend would react. And some people would react very poorly if you started going on how horrible kangaroo meat was.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I think it's really tough. I don't know. I don't know your friends, so if I knew them, it might be easier. But changing the topic's usually useful. If it sounds like your boyfriend had a good inclination there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's really tough. It's really tough.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of vegans out there are going, well, you should just tell them. You should just tell them what's wrong with it. You should just tell them, be straightforward about it. And I guess there's a way to do that tactfully, but there's never an easy way to do that tactfully when you're eating.
No.
And it sounds like you have a friend who is supportive, at least in principle, of your veganism. And it's like, why would you want to turn them off of that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think it's really hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's a tough situation.
Yeah. I don't know.
We can ask. People can give us advice.
Yeah, maybe things about examples of what they've done in the past.
Exactly, because this seems to happen to everybody at one point or another. And holy shit!
Whoa, Molly moved the whole studio.
Anyway, no, I tend to usually. I just play it by ear. It depends on the situation, how it feels, and I can't say that I would do there's one single thing I would do in that situation every time. I just can't say that there is. And it just depends. I know that's such a weak answer, but
but it really does.
It really does. So moving on.
Hi, Bob and Jenna. This is Kimberly from Eugene, Oregon, or Fallen on the Boards. I have a rant and a question that kind of goes with it. I had a former roommate who luckily left due to our public school being anti-religious and didn't respect God and other things, but luckily she left. But she'd always talk about her puppy, her purebred basset hound, how cute it was, how she wanted her parents to bring it up to come see her all the time, which is fine. I have a problem with people buying purebred dogs when there's lots of other dogs and kennels and stuff that need homes that are not always purebreds, but just as cute and lovable as their purebred dogs. But when she sometimes tell us things about what the dog would do, she'd always seem to call it stupid or idiot or dumb and much other just derogatory remarks towards the dog because, one, it's a puppy, so it doesn't think like a mature dog, and two, think this stupid animal doesn't know better, yet expect it to think and rationalize like a person does. I always hate when I hear people call their pets such names, but she did it constantly, and I never knew how to tell her not to call her dog those names, because it's like me telling someone they can't say something about their child. It's not mine, it's theirs, yet it still bothers me. So I don't think I'll have an issue with it in the future with her, but how do I tell someone else when they say the same things about other pets, about calling them names, and how I don't appreciate them dumbing down their animal because it's either a puppy or it's not a human. Well, that's my question. Hopefully you guys can give me some good answers, and also want to say keep up the good work. I've turned a vegan for about a month now, and it's been pretty good. Kind of hard living on the dorm, so keep up the good work, and thank you.
Cool. Well, hope you stay vegan.
Yep.
Jenna?
I think there's a non-condescending way to explain to people.
I think so too.
That, well, puppies are puppies, and that, they are in a stage of learning.
Sure.
And that it's our job to help them along. Mm-hmm. And that, dog may not do what you want, but you have to teach it in the correct ways and not damaging ways.
Yeah.
So if the dog, you have to teach it, like when it has to go to the...
Did you just refer to an animal?
Oh my God, I did. When he or she has to go to the bathroom, you have to take him outside.
Him, whatever.
Or whatever. And that, if the dog goes to the bathroom inside, it's not because he or she is stupid. It's because it's a puppy.
I think you could. I think if someone says something like that and it bothers you, you say, "Well, do you really think they're dumb, or do you just think that they're a dog?"
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think you can ask that question in a way that just gets someone to think about it,
mm-hmm.
rather than being like, "I don't think you should call your dog stupid." I think that will probably be like immediate wall up. But if you can say to someone, maybe they're not stupid; they're just a dog. Dogs think differently. Dogs have different ways of dealing with the world, and so it's like. And I think there's another way to put it too, is that I feel like dogs, maybe I'm just getting a little weird, but I feel like dogs have a sense of the way that you understand them.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the way you relate to a dog, just in your body language and in your feelings towards that dog, I think dogs can sense a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
And you could probably make the argument to someone that, look, if you treat your dog like they're stupid, they can tell.
Mm-hmm.
They feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And it sends them conflicting signals about how they should be.
Yeah, and it probably makes them anxious.
Probably makes them anxious or something like along those lines. I don't really know, but yeah. I mean, I would think that you could make an argument along those lines.
Sure.
For sure. So I think if I were in that situation and I wanted to get that point across of animals not being stupid, and I've been in similar situations in class mostly where people say, well, dogs are stupid or cows are stupid or whatever is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, they're not stupid. They have a different way of approaching the world than we do.
Mm-hmm.
And one way I've often got students to think about it, and this may not be useful for friends, right? Because it's kind of depends on your friends. But, I've had when I've talked to friends about it, I've talked to students about it, when they go, well, dogs are stupid or dogs aren't rational. I would say, well, you're measuring dogs with our logic about what is intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
So you're assuming that the things that make humans intelligent are, in fact, the things that are the most important. But I said, if you flip it around and look at it from the perspective of a dog, you'd be pretty fucking deficient.
Mm-hmm.
And why would that be the case? You'd be deficient because your sense of smell is nowhere near that dog's sense of smell. We take our dogs out, they pee on things, they smell dogs that walked there days ago. They have this really in-depth kind of sensory world that we do not have.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk to my students, say, look, if you were to ask dogs, if you could, they would probably define intelligence in a completely different way than we do. They would probably define it in terms of the ability to smell or the ability. I don't know how they would define it, but clearly it would be something along those lines of a pack type thing, or I don't know. But the point is that we define intelligence in our own terms. This is kind of a convoluted argument, but we define intelligence in our own terms. And by defining intelligence in our own terms, we, of course, value the things that we find most valuable.
Of course.
What that does is ignore the other skills and attributes and abilities that animals have that we do not possess.
Mm-hmm. We even do this with other human beings. We have a Western view of the world,
sure.
And if other cultures do things differently, it automatically makes them less, rather than different.
That's true.
And yeah, there's an interesting article in the New Yorker not too long ago about IQ and measuring IQ.
Yeah.
Yeah, good read.
So anyway, it's a long way around, but I think there's a way to say, your dog's not dumb. Your dog's just a dog. Your dog understands the world differently than you do. You can say that kind of stuff very politely and not piss somebody off.
Yeah. And emphasize he's a puppy.
Yeah. Well, or you could say he's just a puppy.
Yeah.
You can't expect a lot. He's just a puppy.
Yeah. Or maybe you should take him to some puppy classes.
Stuff like that. I think that's a fine way to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it has that judgmental attitude either. If you say, well, he's just a puppy, or, your dog's just a dog. And, you just kind of do it from a sympathetic angle. I think it might do it. So, moving on.
Hey, vegan freaks, Bob and Jenna, this is Robert Bowen, the angry hippie on the forums. I just wanted to call, just listen to episode 86. It was fantastic as usual. Wanted to mention I also am not a fan of Michael Bolton. Oh no, did I just hurt the cause? That's one of the things that you've talked about before with Peter Singer, and you got a lot of feedback that was very negative about just because you disagreed with the things the man has said. And, people talking about how it hurts the cause. Well, actually, I think that hurts the cause when you say that we all have to agree with everything that someone says. And I think it really speaks out when people decide that if someone who actually goes against the cause and actually speaks out like Peter Singer does and condones things like a Happy Meat, that, we shouldn't stand up and call bullshit on that. And I think that that's the mentality that hurts the cause.
That's right.
So I want to stand up and just say, go get them. I'm completely behind you there on that. The podcast, again, as always, very stellar, very entertaining. Y'all keep up the good work. Thanks so much for the forums and all the hard work that you do for us.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Very much appreciate it. And I agree completely. The moment that we've stopped being critical of each other is the moment we become a cult.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good. We don't want to be a cult. We want to be a movement. Yeah. And we need to be critical of tactics. We need to be critical of ideas. We need to be critical of people who are doing things that I think, that we think aren't good.
Of course.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, we need to constantly be questioning even ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that that's vital. So I very much appreciate that voicemail. And I do encourage you to check out the Angry Hippies podcast over at angryhippie.arbent, A-R-B-E-N-T, right?
Yeah.
.net.
Hi, Bob and Jenna. This is Barrett calling from Portland, Oregon. And I'm calling today because I'm really pissed off about cloned meat. I should mention that I am halfway through Making a Killing, which I'm reading with my book club, and love it. Cool. So I don't know if you cover this later in the book, but I was listening to the radio today, and there's a big discussion about cloned meat and dairy products possibly coming to the market. Of course, they're not going to be labeled as such, but because I'm reading your book, Bob, one of the things it made me think of was that this is only going to further the gap between consumers understanding that they're eating a sentient being. And sadly, it made me think of this terrible movie, The Island, where Scarlett Johansson and Ewan McGregor they're clones, and they're kept in this secret underground facility so that their organs can later be harvested for human use. But anyway, it just seemed like an odd parallel to me, and I was wondering what you guys thought about the cloned meat issue. And besides writing my congressman and asking them to reconsider the labeling issue, what advice you guys might have for people to take action and try and prevent cloned meat and dairy from going to the market. Love your show. Take care.
Wow, I completely agree with you on the cloned meat issue. I think it's scary, and I think it's going to have real problems for animal ethics as well, right? Because cloned animals don't have the same kind of lifespan as non-cloned animals, and often they have genetic problems.
Yes, this is why we don't reproduce asexually.
Yeah.
There's a plus to genetic diversity for a reason.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in terms of fighting cloned meat, I think it's exactly the same for fighting all meat.
Exactly.
I mean, simply talking about the problems that exist with it.
Yeah, and convincing people to go vegan.
I think that's it. Yeah. I really do.
Education on why all meat is wrong. Cloned meat, non-cloned meat, anything. Because, a cloned animal or a non-cloned animal is still a commodity. It's still
that's right.
being treated horribly. So,
I completely agree. So I don't have any novel activism for that because to me it's the same activism that one would use to fight meat more generally. And I think the same problems they're just simply accelerated.
Yeah.
With cloning as Barrett points to. And I also want to thank you for reading Making a Killing. Hope you like it. If you have questions, let me know. Hit me back. But do you have anything you want to add to that?
No.
I feel like it's such a deficient and short answer.
Well, I mean...
But I honestly do think that promoting veganism and using this idea of cloning as one of the avenues to talk about it, I think that's a great way to open it.
Sure.
You critique cloning from pretty solid grounds of, look, this is where it's at. I think it's a bad deal, and I also think it's bad because it could very seriously decrease genetic diversity as well.
Yeah.
So, moving on.
Hey, this is Frippy. I agree with the last podcast. Well, I guess I'm with Jenna too. But I think being vegan definitely has a different mindset than even being, a vegetarian.
Absolutely.
I mentioned I had an Omni ex-boyfriend that I broke up with, and one thing we had argued about was that he insisted that we both wanted the same things and had the same values. I just responded differently. I thought there was a better way to handle it that was just different from his, which was to keep eating meat and do whatever he did to get himself through the day. But no, I disagreed. I definitely think that when you just take a wholesale point of view that animals aren't ours to exploit,
that's right.
Very different from just, I don't want to eat, the flesh of a dead animal, or I'm not going to wear fur, but I'm still going to eat beef. I mean, it's a totally different point of view when you come to believe that animals just aren't ours to use, period, end of story, not use them more nicely or anything. And I just like that you came out and said that, and even said that, there is a difference between vegan and just being a strict vegetarian. I guess I'm divisive too, but I mean, I think it's important to acknowledge that it's more than just discipline. It's definitely what's underlying it. And you don't have to play this call or anything, because I know I call like every week. But I'm just like, right on. And
cool.
Please don't play any more Michael Bolton. Thank you. Bye.
We won't. Don't worry. I absolutely agree. Veganism is living abolition in your everyday life. I mean, it's looking at, okay, if I do believe that doing the least harm is important, this is what I have to do it.
Exactly. I mean, vegetarianism still says it's okay to exploit animals, exploit cows and chickens for eggs and milk. It's not okay to kill them for meat, but it's okay to exploit them for these products.
Sure, but it's an outdated notion of animal exploitation. Completely. It's like there's this assumption that dairy cows are somehow happily giving their milk, Ooh,
well, that's what the commercials say. Aren't they true?
I love vegetarian. Like, you can just imagine a cow. I love vegetarians, moo. Have my milk. Yeah, right.
I know.
It's like animals are still killed for the production of milk and for eggs and for everything else. Oh, Emmy.
What's she doing now?
Molly was chewing on this nylabone, being all good, minding his own business. Emmy walked over, took it, and walked away.
She's going to be such a bully.
Just a little bitch. Anyway, yeah, I forget what I was saying now, because I felt bad for Molly in that situation.
Emmy's always picking on Molly.
She bullies him around.
She does.
And she's half his size. She's the alpha dog in the house. There's no question.
I smell dog breath.
Yeah, man.
It's like general funk going on underneath the desk.
The dogs have to be in here while we do this as well.
Of course.
And,
they're hungry too. So.
They are. What was I talking about?
I forget. Vegetarianism being an outdated notion.
Oh, right. An outdated notion of what happens with animal agriculture, because as soon as those animals are not productive anymore, and remember, under animal agriculture, animals are productive units. They're like machinery designed to produce profit. As soon as they become unprofitable, boom, gone. Where do you think they go, vegetarians? I'm curious.
To the happy little pasture.
Murr.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter whether it was a happy cow or a factory farmed cow.
That's right.
It's still, a productive unit. When it's not productive, it's gone.
Because I don't eat meat and I don't eat dairy.
So there you go. And thank you, Frippy. Moving on.
Hi, Bob and Jenna. My name's Jordan. I'm from Kamloops in British Columbia. I just wanted to share my story with you. I've been a vegetarian for about 3 years and a vegan for about the last year.
Yay.
I was actually in chef training school, not vegan chef training. And we were all standing around a dead pig, the 12 of us in a big circle. And I looked at it sort of objectively, like from a third person point of view. And it just felt wrong, the 12 of us all standing around in a circle with knives in our hands, just oohing and awing, and I don't know, it didn't sit well with me, obviously, and that's when I became a vegetarian, pretty much. But the only thing is I was, learning to be a chef, and I spent the next 3 years working in different kitchens, and I'm the chef of the restaurant now, as a matter of fact. Anyway, I just quit my job because I couldn't stand being around dead animals anymore, pretty much.
Wow.
So
cool.
I don't know what I'm going to do, but I don't know. I feel surprisingly good about it, I'm 23, but I can pick a new career, I'm sure. As much as I love food, I don't want to kill animals anymore. So I just wanted to share this story with you, and thank you for your show. I love it, and don't stop making shows now, because I'm going to need all the support I can get. Anyways, thanks. Bye.
I want to say that kudos to you for doing that. That's good.
That's a move with a lot of intestinal fortitude.
It is indeed. It is indeed. But on the other hand, it was probably a move that just clearly felt right to him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you are young, and there are, I imagine, a lot of different things that you could do and still show your love for food. I mean, you're in British Columbia. There's got to be somewhere that you can cook, perhaps, that is vegan or vegetarian at least.
I would think it wouldn't be that difficult to find. Well, maybe it is. There's probably a lot of competition.
True. And depending on what part of British Columbia you're in. But
yeah, but I would think that it'd be worth looking for something. I mean, a trained chef who could work in a vegan or a vegetarian restaurant, I'm sure that would be something that would be quite in demand.
Mm-hmm.
But I very much applaud what you've done. I mean, it's living your ethics through and through and deciding you're not going to have a part of it. Mm-hmm. And I personally couldn't cook meat.
Mm-mm.
There's no way around. There's no way I could. And I understand exactly where he's coming from.
Yeah.
But to leave a career behind is a hard thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very impressive. And I think it's a model behavior, man.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, you will have definitely our support. So.
Yeah, I mean, shit. If there's anything we can do, you let us know.
Yeah, man.
So, congratulations on that, though. It's a life-affirming move, not only for animals, but also for yourself, because ultimately a lot of what veganism is, I think, is about living your life in the way that feels right to you.
Mm-hmm.
And he clearly wasn't feeling right the way he was living. So,
yeah. And you might not be able to do exactly what you want right away, but eventually, you'll figure it out.
I completely agree.
Hey, Bob and Jenna. This is Marcy calling from Manhattan. I've been vegetarian for about 2 years now, and recently I've reached a higher level of moral superiority, and I've become a full-on vegan.
Yay!
In part to your podcast. It's been total therapy, so thank you so much for that. I really have stupid shit happen to me on a regular basis. And something happened recently that had me rethinking my career choices. And I wanted to run it by you guys, see if I could get some advice. But basically, I was talking to a girlfriend who is enrolled in this integrative nutrition health counseling program, which I was planning on doing myself in the fall. And my friend is vegan. She has been for much longer than I have. But basically, it was for health purposes, whereas it's really the ethics that drive me towards veganism. And she says that the more and more that she learns in this program, the less she sees veganism as the healthiest diet. And she says that she wouldn't necessarily advocate that to her future clients. And instantly I thought to myself, how could I advocate anything but veganism? I mean, I can't imagine myself saying it's okay to eat fish. It's all right if you drink a couple glasses of milk or yogurt. Or I mean, the thought of it makes me gag. And I would really have to put my ethics aside in order to give people seemingly more practical advice. I don't know, I never had thought about it before, but for her, I mean, if she sees a healthier option, she is fine with okaying that. But, I mean, for me, I can't say that it's okay for you to torture and maim and eat animals. So, yeah, I just want to hear what you guys have to say about that. If I should just pursue something totally different. I am a women's studies major as well, so I may be going in that direction instead. But I thought it was something interesting. So I'm looking forward to a new podcast. So take care. All right, thanks.
Okay, I'm just going to say what I think. I don't think that you'll be comfortable, from the way you sound, I don't think you'll be comfortable putting your ethics aside to give people advice that you find ethically problematic. I think if you want to move in that direction, you're in Manhattan, right? That's the only, it's like, there's such a concentration of people in the New York area. I would think that you could do what you do, and your niche could be doing that vegan.
Exactly.
So vegan, what was the integrative
medicine? Basically,
nutrition,
yeah, nutrition.
right?
Nutrition. Yeah.
Yeah. I would think that you could do that as a vegan, you know.
Right. You just set yourself up as, I'm the vegan nutritionist, and if you want to come see me to learn how to eat well as a vegan, that's what you do.
Right.
In New York, it shouldn't be a problem. Like
I
you just
think.
said.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so few, and people, I know that people are looking for this kind of advice. I mean, Vicente Molina is like the only person I can think of who actually does this right now.
Sure.
I know that there are more out there.
She's a nutritionist, right? But I mean, my understanding of what Marcy does is somewhat different than,
a
little more in depth than that, right?
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, Vicente's, I guess, a diet, I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I don't know. I guess, isn't that like it's not like Vicente doesn't do that stuff. I guess maybe I don't really even understand, so I shouldn't even talk out my ass. But I agree with you that colonizing that niche is the thing to do.
Exactly.
And work in that niche, get a website and do
it.
Do consultations outside of town.
Yeah.
Market yourself. Do consultations in town in person with people. And I would think you would not have a very difficult time finding plenty of vegans in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Or any major city for that matter.
Yeah. And really, there is plenty of evidence that shows that veganism is a very healthy diet. It's not like you have to say, oh, that there's this healthier thing out there. I think there's plenty of evidence that shows veganism, I don't know if it's the most healthy out there, but it is very healthy, you know? So, I mean, for example, Neil Barnard presents it as, this is the diet that you have to follow.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't make any ifs, ands, or buts about it.
That's
He's
right.
not afraid to call it vegan.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't present it as, oh, it's totally inconvenient. He's like, no, it's totally what you have to do. It's convenient if you want to be healthy.
That's right.
It's what you do. It's just the changes you make, and that's what you do. And he doesn't apologize for it. And I really like that.
Me too.
And so that you don't have to, apologize for it. You don't have to say that, oh no, maybe you should eat fish once in a while. There's no reason to.
I agree. And like I said, man, just get that niche, get in there, establish yourself. I think it could really work.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know for sure. I don't know what the market's like. But I would think that if you were to do some research, you could figure it out and make it happen.
I would think.
If that's what you really want to do. As for going into women's studies, I wouldn't advise anybody going to academia, to be completely honest with you. I just don't think it's a good idea at the end of the day. I mean, I just don't. First off, it's so difficult to find a job, number one. And number two, you end up having to go where the job is. Thus, I live in the middle of nowhere in northern New York. And while I like living here, is this, if suddenly tomorrow the skies were to open up and someone were to say to me, Bob, you may live wherever you would like, do you think I would pick here?
No.
Ooh, yeah.
No, I wouldn't. So, academia is like that. It's competitive. It's cutthroat. People put knives in your back. So,
yeah,
there are a lot of other ways to go.
But I think it would be cool, like promoting veganism like that.
I think so too.
And I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't talk about the ethics and all the other parts.
Well, there's no reason why you couldn't find clients who are interested in the ethics.
Exactly.
That's the thing too. I mean,
I have the ethics. I don't have the diet part. Help me.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people who need that.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people interested in going vegan anyway because, for whatever reason.
Exactly.
So I think you could do it.
Help people do it right.
Hell yeah.
This is Ronnie from Dundee, Scotland. No, I'm not Scottish. I'm American, just like I sound. I want to talk about cheese. I'm convincing my partner slowly. I've pretty much convinced him that cow cheese is bad, but now he's decided that sheep cheese and goat cheese is probably produced in a humane way. I've watched Earthlings. I've listened to it. I had to turn my head away. I've read various books. I'm becoming fairly knowledgeable on the topic. And in fact, what I learned about cow cheese production about that's where veal comes from. That's what tipped me over to the edge into veganism. So I realized that that's a bit hypocritical to continue eating cheese. So cheese is gone, bye-bye. But him, I need some evidence. I need some information about goat and sheep cheese production. Can you guys cover that in the next show or in an upcoming show so that we can settle this issue, so I can have some information, some ammunition for this argument, that there aren't sweet little goats and sheep freely giving up milk so their cheese can be produced? I'd really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Bye.
It's almost like the dynamics of dairy production. When dairy cows are no longer productive, they are turned into ground beef. When sheep are no longer productive, they're turned into mutton, right? I mean, all that mutton curry being consumed, right? That's coming from somewhere. It's probably coming from sheep who either are no longer productive in terms of the production of wool or no longer productive in the production of milk. They're done away with. They're killed.
Exactly. And where do you think lamb, baby sheep, just like veal. That's
absolutely
where it comes from.
It's the same dynamic.
Yeah.
It's probably not as, I'm almost sure that I'm positive, in fact, that it's not as numerous, right? There aren't as many sheep and as many goats involved, but the same dynamics are still there. It is a logic that is built into the system, and it has to function this way, or people don't make money. And that's why people do it. They do it to make money. And if you have a sheep that is no longer productive, you can't just hold on to the sheep as your little family friend anymore. I mean, it's a matter of having to have that sheep sold at auction so that it can be slaughtered so you can make money on your investment. These animals are investments. They're property. They're meant to produce more value. And if you want to understand that whole dynamic, I would like to recommend to you Making a Killing, The Political Economy of Animal Rights, which I'm holding up right now, which you can't see that, but because it's radio. But no, I think that that's the thing to bear in mind, is that, cows are killed when they become no longer productive. Sheep are killed when they're no longer productive. Goats are killed when they're no longer productive. And in fact, sheep are shipped often to the Middle East or Africa for slaughter after they're no longer productive. So the dynamics actually aren't that much nicer.
No, not at all. And it doesn't matter how nice you treat the sheep or the goat while you're taking its milk. It's, at the end of the day, you're still treating it as a productive unit. It still upholds the whole idea that animals are these, units. They're not beings.
Right.
And that it's okay for us to take, their milk and then kill them.
Absolutely. So it's the same thing broken down. And, it sucks to come to terms with these things because people like to eat these products. And often that's what's behind most of the resistance there.
They're just looking for an excuse to keep eating what they've been eating.
And well, it's like any other kind of privilege, to get men to see their male privilege is difficult. To get white people to see their white privilege is difficult. To get people in the first world to see first world privilege is difficult. To get humans to see species privilege is simply very difficult as well.
Yeah.
Why? Because in all those situations, the people who are in the position of power benefit from it. Even if they don't like it, they benefit from it. So I don't like the fact that there's patriarchy in the world, but I benefit from it being a male. And that's the thing, is that we all benefit from it. So seeing it is really difficult and frustrating on occasion, but it needs, if you're going to be honest with yourself, the dynamics, if you got them off of cow cheese, the same dynamics are there for the other kinds of cheese. They just need to be,
because it's a different animal doesn't mean it's any better.
I agree. I completely agree. So anyway, phew. Think we're done?
I think we're done.
Cool. Dogs are hungry.
Dogs are hungry.
The Bob and Jen are hungry.
Yeah.
That's right.
Go eat dinner.
Look at Emmy.
What's she doing?
Oh, she's laying down. She had her head up against the wall. She was like chilling. It's pretty funny.
So cute.
She is indeed. Well, anyway, be in touch with us. You can leave a voicemail on our website at veganfreakradio.com. You can send us email at show@veganfree. No, what is our address?
Yeah, show@veganfreakradio. Something. I don't know. Go to our website.
Is it podcast or is it show?
Show.
Okay. Yeah.
Time to stop, I think.
267-295-1944.
Also record on our MyChingo on our website. Oh, you did? Sorry.
Didn't I?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's time for us to call us some quits. We'll be back again soon with another show as soon as we can. And in the meantime, keep those emails, calls, and other stuff coming. We'd like to hear from you. We'd like to know what the news stories are out there. And We'd like to have topics to talk about, so be in touch. Take it easy, and if you aren't vegan yet, you should be.
Yes.
You definitely should be. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm a vegetarian.
You're a what?
I don't eat meat.
Pork?
No.
Chickens?
No.
And what about the sausage?
No meat.
What is wrong with you?
It's Vegan Freak Radio number 87 for the 3rd of February, 2008.
Coming to you from high atop their elite fortress of moral superiority, here are your protein-deficient hosts, Bob and Jenna.
Hey everybody, this is Bob.
And Jenna.
And we're back again for another edition of Vegan Freak Radio, we think.
Despite the, this is like the 3rd time now.
Well, we've tried, yes.
Tried.
Okay, so here's what's been happening. I was getting ready to get the show. I was like getting all of our stuff in our little sound carts and getting everything sorted out. And I went to reach across the table in Studio 1 here at Vegan Freak headquarters and spilled a cup of coffee all over everything. None of the equipment was damaged, fortunately, but it did make a mess. There was coffee everywhere. It was disgusting. It wasn't a big cup of coffee, but it just like everywhere immediately coffee. So we had to clean that up, lift up monitors and all kinds of crap, cleaned up the coffee. I was upset because I had to go get more coffee. So now I have more coffee and I'm feeling pretty charged up. We sat down, we did the show, we were like getting through the intro, we're cranking, we're bitching and moaning about snowmobilers, which we'll do again in a second. And then all of a sudden, boom, everything shuts off. Like, what the hell? We look down, Emmy is standing on one of the power strips. Emmy is our dog, in case you don't know, is standing on one of the power strips that power some of the equipment in the studio. Oh, God. So that cut that part of the show out almost immediately. Did I hit record? God, yes.
Okay.
Holy hell. Yeah, it's like one of those days here. You know, it's like we can't win.
No, not at all. And we were originally bitching about the snowmobiles, which I'm sure we'll hear at some point during the show. Go past the window because they're loud and annoying.
Drunk fucks.
And yeah, so right now that there are like, probably 6 or 7 snowmobiles parked in front of the bar that's down the street from my house.
Yep.
And
it's actually diagonal from our house,
right.
so the dogs can look out the window and see it and bark at them.
Yeah, bark at everybody who comes out and goes out for a smoke.
Yeah.
And so earlier we were trying to prevent Emmy from barking at all the people who are sitting outside smoking.
Yeah, and getting drunk and
then getting on their snowmobiles and driving home.
That's right.
So.
And you know what? This is the depth of dedication we have to you, our Vegan Freak Radio listeners. We are here on Super Bowl Sunday recording a show for you. Now,
like as if you're going to watch the Super Bowl.
Yeah, okay. If either of us gave a shit about the Super Bowl, it might mean so. I think it's from all the soy milk in my coffee. I'm like,
ew, disgusting.
Sorry.
So if we hear gross noises in the background, part of it's from you. Actually, part of it's also from Mole.
Yeah, he's
Mole's sitting here licking himself for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, he's he gets caught in these. When I was a kid, I used to program in BASIC, like on the TI-99 4A. No, is that right? TI-80. Yeah, or no, that was a calculator. Well, in any case, I used to have one of these little Texas Instruments computers. It's all in one. And I used to love to do 10 print, lick my balls. 20, go to 10. And then hit return. It would run up the screen, lick my balls forever, right? Yeah, I did. I used to like to do that. And when they had them in department stores, I could do the same thing. So Mole is caught in a go-to loop.
Yes,
he's
he
like,
is.
10 lick, 20 go to 10. Lick, 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 lick. And until we hit like Control C or Control Z and snap him out of it, that's what he does. Sorry.
Oh, there he goes. So he stopped.
Wow.
You hit Control C.
So, yeah, that's kind of my nerdy. I'm sorry. Yeah, basic. That's about all I know. So, okay, let's move on.
Okay. Anyway, many people send us a link to this article.
And we thank every single one of them for sending it. There were a lot of people, so we can't go through every single name.
Exactly. And it is from the New York Times.
It is, and it's called Rethinking the Meat Guzzler, and it's by Mark Bittman, who has written several cookbooks, right? He wrote a cookbook called How to Cook Anything, right? Or
How
Everything?
to Cook Everything, and then How to Cook Everything Vegetarian.
And he's Cook Everything Vegetarian. And in the little byline for the article, they make a point of noting he is not a vegetarian.
Because, that's too extreme. And should he actually be a vegetarian, then, you might not want to listen to him because we're all crazy.
Or we're girls.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't know. Like, what's...
Yeah.
But anyway, Bittman, this is actually an interesting article. I think it begins... Well, it's actually a provocative article in a lot of ways, but I think that there are problems with it.
Of course.
Like there are for most things from the New York Times that talk about animals. It begins like this. A sea change in the consumption of a resource that Americans take for granted may be in store. Something cheap, plentiful, widely enjoyed, and a part of daily life. And it isn't oil. It's meat.
The horrible meat!
Yes, indeed. The two commodities share a great deal. Like oil, meat is subsidized by the federal government. Like oil, meat is subject to accelerating demand as nations become wealthier, and this in turn sends prices higher. Finally, like oil, meat is something people are encouraged to consume less of as the toll exacted by industrial production increases and becomes increasingly visible. Global demand for meat has multiplied in recent years, encouraged by growing affluence and nourished by the proliferation of huge confined animal feeding operations. These assembly line meat factories consume enormous amounts of energy, pollute water supplies, generate significant greenhouse gases, and require ever-increasing amounts of corn, soy, and other grains, a dependency that has led to the destruction of vast swaths of the world's tropical rainforests. So he goes on to kind of talk about how Brazil is announcing emergency measures to halt the burning and cutting of the rainforest, and that the world's total meat supply has gone up from 71 million tons in 1961 to about 284 million tons in 2007. And per capita consumption is doubling. What he says here is that also that Americans eat about the same amount of meat as we have for some time, about 8 ounces a day, roughly twice the global average. So Americans are eating more than twice what everyone else is. At about 5% of the world's population, we quote-unquote process, that is, grow and kill. He put that in there, not me. Grow and kill nearly 10 billion animals a year, more than 15% of the world's total. Growing meat, he says, it's hard to use the word raising when applied to animals and factory farms. Uses so many resources that it's a challenge to enumerate them all. But consider, an estimated 30% of the Earth's ice-free land is directly or indirectly involved in livestock production, according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, which also estimates that livestock production generates nearly a fifth of the world's greenhouse gases, more than transportation. So that's a pretty compelling argument right there for all the ecosexuals out there who are worried about carbon and all that crap, right? So I think that's actually pretty cool, right? He goes through all these costs, and he talks about how grain, meat, and energy are roped together that in ways that are really troubling for large scale systems. And he also goes in and ties all this stuff to malnutrition and hunger. So you should really go check the article out. I think it does a really nice job of pulling these things together. And it also says that so it looks at the environmental aspects, but it also looks at the health aspects of the whole issue by saying that grain-fed animals are contributing to health problems among the world's wealthier citizens, leading to things like heart disease, some types of cancer, and diabetes. And so he's saying that even if meat weren't harmful, we're eating way more than we should be. So he says that Americans are downing close to 200 pounds of meat, poultry, and fish per capita per year. That's disgusting.
That is disgusting.
Dairy and eggs are separate and hardly insignificant, an increase of 50 pounds per person from 50 years ago. We each consume something like 110 grams of protein a day, about twice the federal government's recommended allowance. Of that, about 75 grams come from animal protein. The recommended level itself is considered by many dietary experts to be higher than it needs to be. It's likely that most of us would do just fine on around 30 grams of protein a day, virtually all of it from plant sources. So he actually says all this in here, right?
He's making all these wonderful arguments for not eating meat.
Yeah. And then the next paragraph, he says, what can be done? And he says, there's no simple answer.
I got one for you.
What is it?
Don't eat it.
Yeah. Go vegan, man.
Go vegan.
Absolutely.
It's a problem solved.
I think it's a very simple answer.
Pretty simple to me.
He actually says that better waste management is an answer. Eliminating subsidies is another one. Improved farming would help. Technology would help. The possibility of lab I was like,
I don't know if we quite compare to them.
No, I don't think we do. But I appreciate it. So he has a voicemail later on the show. But anyway, you should check out his podcast. It's excellent. Just rants, from the heart. Angry. Some of it's angry. Some of it's funny. Some of it's angry and funny. I was listening to it out walking the dogs one day. I was laughing my ass off. I really liked it. So, it's like every other, it's like the, podcasts. Some are for some people, some are not for some people. And I don't know if you tend.
I would imagine if you like our show, you like his show.
Probably. He's a little rantier than we are, though.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think he holds back as much as we do either. So I think that's good. I find myself holding back quite a bit on the show, frankly.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, check out his show. In terms of other things, I was on a radio show called, oh my God, blanking. It was on KVDS in Davis, California. And I spent the hour with the host, Richard Estes, talking about making a killing. We had a pretty interesting conversation about the book, talked about some of the reasons people would go vegan, talked about some of the things that I brought up in the book, mostly around the kind of conflicts within the animal rights movement and some of the issues around immigrant labor and some of the human aspects of animal production, the downsides of that, along with the animal downsides. So it was an interesting conversation.
Cool.
Yeah, man. I think you can find it on their website too. Although I don't feel like I was very eloquent in the interview. I don't know why. I get on the phone, I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I had a hard time for a little bit there.
Well, it was kind of an odd time to have a radio interview for us because it was like during rush hour on the West Coast, but it was like 8 o'clock on a Friday night here. So
and 8 o'clock on a Friday night here, man. I'm not usually doing radio shows, so I'll just put it that way. No, it was all right. I think it went all right. I appreciate having had the opportunity to be on the show.
Cool.
So let's move into the meat of the show.
All
sorry.
Right. Cool.
Yeah. No Michael Bolton this week. I'm sorry.
No
old men this week either. We'll come back with one of those segments shortly.
We will.
Well, we can't beat things to death,
No, we don't do that.
I was trying to convince Jenna to do with things as they aren't as they used to be segment.
I'll probably do one. Maybe next time.
Okay, people are going to hold you to that.
I got to practice my old lady voice first.
Give it a shot.
Well, I was out walking the other day.
That's
I can't. I don't know. It's not good.
What do you mean?
It needs work.
It needs work. So when you're gonna work on it, like driving back and forth in the car? Or
yeah,
what?
Yeah.
That's a good place. Yeah, good. So. Let's move on to the show.
Okay. We wanted to start off with an article that many people sent us a link to. We don't.
I've got like long Earth balance going on here.
Yay! Great. Okay. You're just not a man, Bob.
What do you mean I'm not a man, baby?
Because you're not gonna be eating junk food and watching the Super Bowl tonight.
That's right. Of course not. We were watching something, wasn't on CTV or CBC, one of those, where they were going shopping for Super Bowl parties, and they went down the vegetable aisle, and the guy's like, no cucumbers, no peppers, none of this. It's Super Bowl Sunday. It's like he has to buy the junkiest possible food. Anyway, who cares? So probably gonna drop a quiz on my students tomorrow. Aren't I a dick?
Who cares?
Yeah. That's what they get for liking sports. I'm kidding. Kind of. No, I'm kidding. So, yeah, we've got a bunch of things to talk about today on the show. Sorry for the kind of delay between shows here. We have had a busy few weeks with our semester kind of kicking into gear and all that. We did crank out a subscriber show in the interim, though.
We did.
And we want to do another one of those soon. I want to call my parents. I told my mom I wanted to call my mom and my dad and talk to them interview them about how weird I am. And my mom's like, well, I want to prepare. And also says, Mom, don't prepare, just let me call. So we might call my parents and see what they have to say about being, about me being vegan and freaky. What I want to do is determine just how far back there were indications I may have been moving this way in my life.
Oh boy.
So
I have a feeling it's probably way back.
Probably. I've always been a contrary sort.
Yes, you have.
I always have. It gets me into trouble very often. But there we are. So, go ahead, Gina.
Yes. I don't know. Anyway, we have a shout out.
We do. We haven't
couple,
done those in a
actually.
long time.
No, we
Go
have
ahead.
2. One of them is for Jocelyn. We need to wish her a happy birthday tomorrow.
Absolutely.
On Monday.
The 4th.
The 4th, and from her husband, Michael.
And I had an interesting email exchange with Michael, who is a vegan for environmental reasons, which we're going to talk about in a moment, but not necessarily for animal rights reasons. So it was interesting to try to get him to bring him around. He had some interesting ideas. So I don't know if we ever got there or not, but we'll see. So happy birthday.
Yes.
I wish we had we used to have a happy birthday song in here. Don't have it anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, if you're having, we will try to find that at some point and maybe put it back in there.
Okay.
And also, I wanted to give a shout out to the Angry Hippie over at angryhippie.arbent.net. We're going to play a voicemail from Angry Hippie a little later in the show. He has been on our forums for a while now. He does a podcast and a blog, and is starting to do some film stuff too. Cool. But I actually finally had the chance to listen to one of his shows the other day. And not only was he kind enough to say really, I think, overly generous things about us, which was cool.
Mm-hmm.
In his show, he actually compared us to, he had these difference makers, like a segment in his show. The 2 difference makers for the week were us and Doctors Without Borders.
Oh, geez.
I know.